Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the analysis or reporting of the Ukrainian offensive. So the Ukrainian offensive has started. So anyone who tell you haven't, yeah, they just expecting a D-Day kind of offensive, which is not happening. The offensive has already started. It is not across all the front line consistent at one time. Some front lines has already started earlier, some is later. So going into the more interesting, some of the interesting things that is happening, we go into the southern front. So in the southern front, there is a lot of troop movement around this area here. The pro-Russian source Ryber have come out with a lot of information. So first thing, there is a concentration of Ukrainian forces at Kizomys. Kizomys is actually this small little town over here at the very edge, at the mouth of the Dnipro River. And this is where, according to the pro-Russian source, that they are preparing forces to actually land on the southern part. So where is the southern part that they're planning to land is unclear, but there is some gathering of forces around this area here. Reinforcement is also reported at Hryhorivka. Apparently, this is actually two Grad multiple launch rocket systems that is being supplied over to this area, and there's a lot of artillery forces that has been gathered around this area. At Stanislav, Zaporizhzhia, this is on the western part of the Kherson Front. So information this is coming from all from Ryber actually. So there's artillery at Stanislav. Zaporizhzhia is also the same one, and then on the eastern part, that the artillery is at Odessa Kamyanka. So and this is actually mortar, 120 mm mortar, and then the other force over here is between Berislav, which is here, Berislav and Synkivka. So along this line, there is actually a lot of artillery. Along this line, there is the Hyacinth B, Hauitzer, the 82 mm and 60 mm mortar. They are all from the 223rd Battalion of the 126th Regiment of the Territorial Defense. In the same area, they also have the Grad P on the Mitsubishi L200 multiple launch rocket system. So there is a tremendous amount of artillery in this area here. Not sure if there is any forces that would actually allow them to do a landing, but the amount of artillery in this area is unusual, to say the least. And then in terms of the operations, this artillery is actually assisted by Bayraktar drones. The TB2 drones, at least two of them is operating around the Odessa region. So the other place is Hryhorivka, which I'm not too sure where. So the Belgorod Dnestr is actually at Odessa, is actually in this area here, as you can see. Belgorod Dnistrovsky, this is actually where the drone is flying. You don't see this distance as if it's super far. The Bayraktar TB2 has a extremely good camera, so it allows them to fly really far away and actually can still manage to pick up targets very, very far away. So the Bayraktar drones are no longer used for offensive purpose. They are not or rather they don't use it for like assault operations. They only use it for recon and target acquisition operations. And there is also some kind of things that is stirring around this area here, because Ukrainian planes are getting shot down. So the Ukrainian Sukhoi 25 is shot down over Valentinsky. Ryber, this is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. Ryber reported it to be near Mizomys. Basically, this is actually the same plane. So it's basically just flying and fell across, something like this. And this is shot down according to Ryber by Manpads Air Defense. Basically, man held one man carried a missile. And there is also another plane, a MiG-29 shot down over Hryhorivka. So this is actually much further away. So there must be some kind of a Ukrainian operations, for them to invest airplanes in this area here. The one at Valentensky is trying to target the town of I believe I think it's Starozubivka, Zurivka, I believe, something around here. So they are trying to hit some targets there. It's not very important because they get shelled anyway by artillery. It's just that the use of aircraft does indicate something. And so this is the situation over at the southern front over here. And related to this is actually around the Zaporizhzhia front. At the Zaporizhzhia front, there is deployment of forces around Nikopol. The forces here is actually special forces detachments, and they are actually holding up. Sorry for the lag. They're holding up around Kayamsky and Nikopol region. So around this city, and probably they will be deployed on vessels, speedboats or something, to allow them to cross over to the southern side of the Dnipro river, allow them to cross over, maybe land at Kayamka, Dniprovska or Vodyane, to allow them to attack Hryhorivka, or they could actually go directly to Hryhorivka in a more risky move, I guess, to capture the nuclear power plant. So not sure what is the Ukrainian planning, but it does seems like a kind of D-Day thing that they are trying to plan. Given that we previously have reports of massive amount of troops in this area here. So why have so many troops being gathered in this area? The Russians are not going to cross up. So these forces is definitely not there for defensive purposes. Over at the Zaporizhzhia line proper on its own, the Ukrainian side continue to gather forces. So there is reinforcement reported along the Kayamsky-Shebaki line. Paratroop, so airborne troops from the 128th Mountain Assault Brigade arrive at this line here, which is actually the Kayamsky-Shebaki area here. So there are reinforcement coming here. And then reinforcement also arrive at Komishyvaha, as well as this area here north at Slavny. So these are actually the artillery, so cannon artillery of the 160 Mechanized Brigade. So the artillery is actually stationed around here, and then there is also reinforcement reported at Verkhnya Tersa. So these are actually assault company. So there is actually reinforcement coming to this area here. So the Russians have reacted by shelling Orikhiv and Malatoshmashka. So the Malatoshmashka is actually on the first. On the second, they shelled Orikhiv. So there must be some forces that's being gathered around this area, which we did report before that they were there. So it's getting shelled by the Russians. So the Ukrainian offensive is brewing. They're definitely getting ready to do some offensive. The pro-Russian sources is actually bracing themselves, saying that the Zaporizhzhia offensive is coming really soon. If you go towards to the east, we also have shelling reported at Hryhorivka, Temerivka, and Prevene, which also suggests that there are Ukrainian forces in this area here. Especially in this area here, I did mention that there's an unusual amount of Ukrainian forces at this area, and this is corroborated further with the deployment of artillery forces in Kolomytsy, which is actually a bit far, but this is definitely within the artillery range, 20-30 kilometers. So this force is MLRS, I guess. So this is a lot of artillery, definitely a sign of offensive operations is going to come very soon. So looking forward to it. Over at the Donetsk region, there is only some probing action. The Ukrainians probe Solotke, and that's the only thing that we have in the Donetsk front here. Within the ADFK front region, the Ukrainians actually reinforced Tonenke and Sjeverne. This is actually in reaction to the failed offensive on Vodyane. They tried to capture Vodyane in the two prone attack, but it did not work. So they are going to try again. It looks like they're going to gather forces around this area here on the western part of ADFK. There's also reinforcement reported near Kanyamka. This one is in response to a breakthrough by the Russians south of Kanyamka. So the offensive in the ADFK region is going to be very limited. It looks like it's going to be just trying to capture the town of Vodyane for now. This area is very entrenched. It's everywhere. It's just like World War One terrain, trenches everywhere. So any offensive in this area is going to be very, very slow. And then moving on, within the Bakhmut Front, at the Bakhmut Front, the Ukrainian forces actually launched their offensive. This is actually first reported by Remy Lin, a pro-Russian source, saying that the Ukrainian units actually were put on full alert on the Bakhmut Front. And they say that the units are put on alert not just in the Bakhmut Front towns and cities like Chasiv Yar and Konstantinivka, but the forces at Kramatorsk and Sloviansk has also put on full combat alert. And on the same day, the Ukrainians actually attacked from Hryhorivka, Bohdanivka and Chasiv Yar. So this is how they are moving in this direction. So maybe in the long run, they are going to push towards Synkivka and then maybe Krasnohorivka and Pilhorodne to flank to the rear rather than fight within the city, because going to the rear can actually cut off the Wagner forces that is currently making the push within Bakhmut. And the one at Chasiv Yar, they're going to capture the terrain around Ivanivsky, and then definitely going for Klishevka and maybe go for Zaporizhzhia. So similarly, all these I have already reported and actually produced videos talking about this, the Ukrainian attempt to actually try to pincer back the Russian forces. But of course, I believe the pincer will be much bigger. This is only around Bakhmut city. There will be another bigger pincer, I believe, since we are talking about Sloviansk and Kramatorsk forces being put on alert. So this force is probably going to move out. Where are they going to go? I personally think that they will actually go to Sievers down, and Kramatorsk will go from the area maybe here, or they can actually go to the north as well and then do one massive push down. Forces at Konstantinivka will go this way. I think then we will have this super massive pincer movement that will actually wipe out the entire Russian forces that have committed into the Bakhmut Front. But whether they can do it, anyone's guess. Within the Kreminna Front, we only have some probing at Torske, being reported at Torske and Nevsky. So the Ukrainian forces did some probing in this area here, not exactly offensive, they are still probing. Reinforcement, however, is reported at Yampil, which is a recon force of the 71 something of their airborne forces. So some reinforcement coming to Yampil. We shall see how things goes. And within the Kupyansk-Svatove Front, continues to be very probish. The Ukrainian forces continue to attack within the Synkivka region. This is basically a daily affair already. It's like drinking water, eating, and sleeping, shitting. So it's so whenever you eat, sleep, shit, that's Synkivka. And there is also probing at Timkovka, at Hryhorivka, at Berestove. So this is pretty usual. There's a gathering of forces, however, at Petropavlivka. Let me zoom in further. So at Hryhorivka. So this is at this town of Hryhorivka. There's a concentration of forces. Reportedly, they were the 1st Battalion of the 14th Mechanized Brigade and the 2nd Battalion of the Foreign Defense Legion. So they are concentrating within Hryhorivka and Kupyansk region. And this is definitely going to be an offensive force. Where will they strike? Not so sure. Maybe they're going to reinforce the Synkivka forces that is currently trying to break through the Russian lines. There is currently just outside of Synkivka. And another force is being reported to be being moved is actually at the Vorychna region. So the Ukrainian forces continue to come into Vorychna, despite the Ukrainians haven't done any crossing into this area yet. But reinforcing this area while the Russians seem to be on the offensive seems to suggest the Ukrainians are planning to go on the offensive in this area here. The Russians, previously I mentioned they shelled Kherson, probably because of some Ukrainian forces in this area here, which might want to cross over. They continue to shell this area, and this time round they also shell another region. They are currently bombarding Novolinsk. So this is another area that the Russians are shelling. Maybe there is also a Ukrainian force that is currently in this area here that wants to cross over. So maybe this is just an alternative. Maybe they want another force here, because this one might be very challenging to cross over because the Russians are very close by. Russian territory is very close by. If they cross here, maybe there's a better chance. Then they can actually do a smaller flanking movement to go to the rear of Tavizanka, as the Russians are currently holding the line over there. So yeah, so possible. And so what else? So the Synkivka seems to be really unusual given the amount of artillery shelling in this area and the activity in this area. So there must be some kind of a big force of the Ukrainians around this area as well, that the Russians keep shelling them in this area here. So this is another place that we want to look out for the Ukrainian actions. So we are probably going to see some actions from here, from Synkivka and Kupyansk region at Vorychna, and maybe slightly north, and of course further up north at Kherson. So when the Ukrainians do want to push the offensive, if they want to do it in a grand way, we can see a crossover here, a push north. Yeah, this would actually look pretty good. So anyway, this is the status of the Ukrainian offensive. Oh, one more information. There is a significant amount of heavy armored vehicles. So according to the Russians, they say it's a large echelon of heavy armored vehicles that arrived at Kremenchuk. So the pro-Russian source is speculating that they will be transferred to the Zaporizhzhia, or they will be split up into another place, Zaporizhzhia and somewhere in the Eastern Front. So there is this major force around Kremenchuk now. Yeah, so maybe they will be pushed to Dnipro and go south, or they could actually go east. So they're not sure, but these are just some rumors. So anyway, this is the update on the Ukrainian offensive, and do subscribe, press the like button, subscribe, join the TPA army, because you need to subscribe, then I can get new viewers. Especially if you have viewed more than one of DPA's video, and you're not subscribed, then you're not doing me a favor. So do me a favor, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next update.